Wild night again for the Twins. Cory Provus will recap that. Plus, how Enderlin is trying to recover from the devastating tornado with its football team back on the field. Hot Mic starts now.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Friday morning. Welcome to we're on the doorstep edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV, good morning in Sioux Falls. KMBN in Rapid City, Western South Dakota. And Inforum.com. Happy Friday, everybody. Made it to the end of the week, August the 15th, 2025. Walking into the parking lot this morning, realizing this is probably the last one where it's going to be empty like this. Get back to work, everybody. Next Friday, it's go time. We have football games in the state of North Dakota 7 days from today. 2 weeks from today, everybody's playing. That's including in Minnesota. Also, 2 weeks from today, we're getting on an airplane to go to Charleston, South Carolina. So here we go. It's officially on after that. So enjoy it now. Even tomorrow. I'm sure there's plenty that are heading down to U.S. Bank Stadium tomorrow to see a bunch of backups play when the Vikings play their second preseason game against the Patriots. It's officially here, and it's rock and roll. There was someone that tweeted last night, and that was a perfect tweet, that last night felt the last dead sports night of the year. And that's no offense to the Little League World Series that was going on, or if you watched the CFL game last night with, I think it was Winnipeg and Toronto, ? That was it. It's probably accurate because after this, we've got preseason NFL games tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday, and Monday. We'll have meaningful baseball games going on, and we're off and rolling. So enjoy while you had it because we got college football games literally 1 week from tomorrow. Week 0 is 7 days from tomorrow. That is wild to say that out loud. We got a packed show coming up for you here today. Excited about our Friday guest lineup. We got the full Wolves schedule. And apparently they like us. They really like us. The Wolves are going to be on TV, I think, the fourth most amount in the NBA next season. We're going to try and explain also how you can watch the NBA next season because it's not how we have come to know it over the last 20 to 25 years. It's definitely different. We'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. I mentioned also we're going to check in Enderlin, North Dakota today. You know, we're not even 2 months removed from the devastating and deadly tornadoes that came through there. The football team is back practicing. Hendrickson Field had one of its light stanchions come down on it. The Eagles, this I think is their third or fourth year of having their own football team. They open up a week from tonight. They've got Wyoming-Lidgerwood. It's a monster rivalry game happening down there. How the community is rallied and ready to go for a high school football season that starts a week from now. We're going to check in on there. Also, we'll be back at Bison Fall Camp. Conversation I had with new running backs coach Sam Ojuri, one of the all-time Bison greats, on how his running back room has changed. This is a different look with Marty Brown moving on. Barika Penu now is the guy. There's 3 transfers in there, a true freshman. Really interesting with the Bison opener 2 weeks from now to get a look at that. So that's coming up in just a little bit as well. Looking forward to that. We're going to start, though. We got Cory Provus coming up in a half hour with the Minnesota Twins, who got a nice win Wednesday night against the Yankees. Back home last night to open up Hall of Fame weekend. It's a big weekend. Corey Koski is going into the Minnesota Twins Hall of Fame. I know for a certain age section of Twins fans, Corey Koski was the guy, especially in those early 2000s when the team was going to get contracted. We're talking about low points in the team's history with what happened earlier this week. They didn't get any lower than that. So it's a big weekend, and the Tigers are in town. The Twins just took 2 of 3 from Detroit last week. Add in the fact that they were going to get Tarek Skubal on the mound last night for Detroit. That was the background for the series opener against the Tigers. And as much as I keep saying, we're moving on from the Twins, they keep drawing us back in because last night's game had a little bit of everything, including the Twins pounding the AL Cy Young winner last night to start the game. If you had that on your bingo card, then more power to you, because I didn't see the game starting with Eddie Julien raking one in the bottom of the third inning out to the plaza at Target Field. That was a bomb for a 1-zip Minnesota lead. It's a 2-0 game. We know this guy's going to hit the ball. Luke Keeschall just keeps raking. Base hit to score Byron Buxton and makes it a 3-0 Minnesota lead. They're rolling here. Riley Green comes to the plate, top of the fourth off Bailey Ober, and hits this one to Duluth. That's a bomb for a 2-run shot. Tigers are right back in the game at 3-2. Same score in the 6th. The Tigers are tied. Colt Keith comes up with a base hit. Javi Baez comes in. We're knotted up at 3 apiece. Same score. Bottom of the 8th. Buxton unloads. From the camera angle, this is a home run. Instead, Green makes an absolute fabulous catch. I'm not here to shame camera operators because I am one. It's a tough job, but that was not frame great. So we go to extras. Bottom of the 10th. Austin Martin, swing. They try to get the game-winning run at the plate, but Roden is thrown out. It's a great tag, and actually Roden's lucky he doesn't have a broken hand after that. So the Tigers score. It's 4-3 in the top of the 11th. Bottom of the 11th, Jeffers is called out. Rocco wants no part of it. He gets tossed because they think that the ball hit the ground. It was ruled he didn't. It's a strikeout. Baldelli got his money's worth because the hat toss, the whole 9 yards. Royce Lewis is the last chance, but he can't hold up. And the Tigers take game 1 of this set with a 4-3 win over the Twins to take the first game. Rocco gets tossed as Detroit picks up its 71st win of the season. Good win last night. A good ball game played at Target Field last night. So Twins drop to now 57-64 on the season. Full 7 games under 500. Bailey Ober with a no decision last night. 5 1/3. He allows 4 hits, 3 runs, and struck out 4. Skubal, honestly, after that start, was pretty darn good. 7 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, and 3 strikeouts for a no decision for him. Erasmo Ramirez took the loss for the Twins. So that goes to Detroit's way in game 1 to start the series. I mean, what are you going to do? Baldelli got his. We're going to get into this more with Cory Provus coming up later on in the show, but he was certainly going to get his money's worth there on that play that happened in extras. All right, let's move on. Yesterday was the final day of the 2 joint practices going on in Eagan for the Minnesota Vikings as they were wrapping up their 2 games or their 2-day practice with the New England Patriots in anticipation of the game coming up on Saturday with New England. Now, we full know that none of the starters are going to get in there and play. J.J. McCarthy not going to go. Most of the Vikings regulars aren't going to go. So yesterday was the day for basically for the number ones to get out there. I'm not sure if we have the video or not. Okay, so apparently we have some issues going on back in studio here. So, John, should we take a break? That sound like a plan? Should we do that? Or can we keep moving on? You tell me. Okay, all right. So we're back. Apparently we're back. So, Vikes were wrapping up yesterday with New England. And mentioned no JJ, tomorrow. So this was it. And for all the hand-wringing that's gone on over the last 3 weeks, yesterday was a emphatic way to end practice with New England because according to what you're going to see, he was as good as he's been all preseason long, on with his throws. And granted, again, it is a joint practice, but the Vikes were really good on offense yesterday. And New England, I'm not sure how good the Patriots are going to be, but you can see there, Addison got open. JJ hits TJ Hawkins. Apparently, red zone defense was not ideal for the Patriots yesterday. But from all intents and purposes, the Vikings felt really good. McCarthy completed 13 consecutive throws at one point during the final joint practice, including 4 straight touchdown throws during a full team goal line session. As you can see, he had that yesterday. His 13 completion streak was snapped on a throwaway to stop the clock during the Vikings 2-minute drill at the end of practice. Now, that's the good news. The bad news, they came out of it a little bit dinged up yesterday. And you're going to hear from KOC here in a minute. Josh Metellus got banged up. Not great. Jalen Naylor got banged up yesterday. Here's what KOC and JJ had to say after the joint practice yesterday.
Towards the end of the 2-minute, just a little shoulder. He'll be evaluated. I'll update you guys on that. And then Jalen Naylor kind of jammed his hand at one point. We wanted to be smart with that. We'll evaluate him and see what that looks like.
JJ, did today feel like one of your better days out there?
It did. The offense was humming as a whole. I feel like the physicality up front really set the tone, and just the way we were able to execute and, just be precise. But it all starts with the boys up front. They did a tremendous job today. First, just want to express my gratitude towards all the fans. You've been absolutely fantastic coming out here, packed house every time there's an open practice. So just want to say, all of us, myself included, really appreciate you guys and can't wait for the season.
So, again, we're probably going to maybe overreact to the 2 injuries and certainly to what JJ played yesterday. Anytime you get the slow, dramatic shots of guys throwing balls deep for touchdowns, that's going to be the case. But I think there's some momentum to draw off of that, of how things wrapped for the Vikes yesterday. And now we're not going to see them again. They have another joint practice coming up next week with the Titans. That's their final preseason game next week. But that pretty much puts a wrap on training camp. They'll have their deal with the Titans. That's in Nashville next week. And then it's on to the regular season, which is crazy to say, but it goes back to what I talked about off the top. Here we go. I think there's a lot to build off of there, especially considering that the last 2 weeks, all we heard is how ahead the defense was of the offense. McCarthy seemed like a hair behind. We were just talking about that yesterday when Alec Osmus joined us on the show. That things seemed just a bit, just quick twitch there, just a little bit off. And that was not the case yesterday. Talking to the Star Tribune yesterday, calling himself a perfectionist, he says, that's something I've been continuing to work on ever since college. I want everything to be perfect out there. That's just unrealistic. I feel like there's always ways you can get better, little things like ball placement that you could have done more. That's kind of the psycho in me. When Hawkinson catches a 20-yard high cross, I'm like, could have been 30. But at the end of the day, it's about staying neutral through those plays. So you want that. Again, we're going to overanalyze every little bit because we haven't seen him play. He threw the ball 7 times in the preseason opener last week in their first game out of the chute and against the Texans. And every single one of those throws is going to be analyzed between now and the Monday night opener, September the 8th in Chicago, because that's all we're going to see of game footage of JJ. Justin Jefferson is trending in a good direction as well. O'Connell said after practice that they're going to try and start ramping him up. Not we're going to see Justin Jefferson back on the field before the opener, but things are trending in a direction where they're happy with that. So that puts a wrap on Vikes camp. It's on to the Titans next week and then the regular season opener, Monday Night Football in Chicago. At least they ended on a good note for, as McCarthy was saying, for the fans to see yesterday in Eagan. I mentioned we got a packed show. Our guest lineup is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual on this Friday morning. Cory Provus will join us in his usual Friday time slot at 9:35 to chat about the Twins and what has been an eventful week for the Minnesota baseball team. His appearances are brought to us by Welton's Tire Service. Cory will join us at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, really excited to have Enderlin head football coach Kevin Murphy join us on what has been an emotional last couple months for that town, and now the football team being back out there. He'll join us at 10 to discuss what's gone on and what to look forward to with their season opener a week from now against Weimar Lidgewood. As I mentioned, at 10:35, NDSU running backs coach Sam Ojuri joins the show. I believe making his hot mic debut since being back in Fargo on taking the job, the running back room for the Bison, and what he's expecting to see out of them in 2025. So we'll wrap up the week with Sam coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Friday. We'll take our first break. We come back. The Wolves are all over television. We'll give you the lowdown on the T-Wolves schedule. Hot mic underway on a Friday. Back after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBM, and Inforum.com. Well, welcome back, everybody. Friday morning show off and rolling. Cory Provus from the Twins will join us about 15 minutes. Recapping last night's game and what's been a interesting week. Maybe the best way to say about what's gone on with the Minnesota Twins over the last, the last 2 weeks have been, crazy. Going back to the trade deadline and then what happened earlier this week with the non-sale of the team. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. Okay, so this entire week we've had little droplings of info on the NBA upcoming schedule. They've taken notes from what the NFL has done over the last handful of years to get people excited about that. And frankly, I'll tell you, it's worked. I'm more excited on the new television deal. And we'll get to the Wolves thing in a minute. But to try and remind everybody of what we have coming up, because basketball season, we're less than 2 months away from things tipping off. And remember, this is the first year of the new TV contract that we've been talking about for probably 2.5 years, where NBC is back in the mix. Amazon is in the mix. Peacock is in the mix. If you are a subscriber to Peacock, you are going to see your monthly bill go up, I think, $3 because they have to pay for the NBA contract. ESPN is still there, and ABC is still there. The NBA put this tweet out yesterday. John, if we can bring this up when you get a second. This is how you can watch the games now this year, and this is helpful. So Sunday, ABC, WDAY will still have games, and then after the NFL season is done, and this upcoming year, it's after the Olympics are done, there's going to be Sunday night basketball on NBC. There's going to be the new, Sunday night basketball in America or whatever they do there. So that's how for Sunday. Monday is Peacock exclusive. And the Wolves are going to have games there that we'll tell you about in a second. Tuesday night is the real one that blows everything up, because Tuesday night there's going to be a doubleheader, quote unquote, on NBC and Peacock. NBC's going to have basketball on, folks. So if you had an NBC show you liked, that's got moved or canceled, because they're going to have the NBA on for half of the country. So depending on where you live, like say if we live in our location, if we get Knicks Celtics at 7 o'clock Central, and then at 9:30 on Peacock, it'll be Celtics or Lakers Clippers, if that makes sense. And the other half of the country, the Knicks-Celtics game would be on Peacock, and then in their part of the world, they would get the game on NBC. Wednesday stays the same. ESPN's had the Wednesday games forever. That doesn't change. Thursday is the big one. Thursday we've been used to. Obviously, that's been the NBA on TNT. That's gone. That's now Amazon Prime. Friday, Prime will have games along with ESPN, and then also Saturday, that will remain with Amazon Prime and ABC. So that's where you're going to find the games. So if you're not, and I think for a lot of our viewers, they're already on Amazon Prime because the NFL has been there for the last couple of years. That's what you're going to be. That's what you were used to, accustomed to. That's what nothing will change there. So if you're already an Amazon Prime subscriber, you're all set. Now, the full schedule, as I mentioned, came out yesterday. And the Timberwolves, maybe I shouldn't be surprised. They've been in the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. They like them. They really like them. Of the teams that are getting the most games on national television, obviously Oklahoma City going to be number one because they are the reigning champs. They got 34 games. The Lakers got 34 games. No surprise. LeBron and Luka, the Lakers are going to be on TV a lot. It's like the Cowboys. Golden State still has 34 national TV games. Apparently people still love Steph, even though they're on the back end of things. The Knicks, my Knicks got 34. And the next highest, the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have 28 games on national television. We have a few schedule highlights to feature for everybody to start planning things out. The season opener will be on the road. The Wolves will play at Portland to open up. October the 22nd is the season opener. The home opener is against the reigning Eastern Conference champion Indiana Pacers. That's a Sunday, October the 26th at Target Center against Indiana. Are the Vikes off that day? I better hope so. Yes, the Vikes are playing. That's their Thursday night game at the Chargers. So that's great. You got no Vikings football. Wolves opener. November the 26th. It's the day before Thanksgiving. Wolves go to OKC for the first time since the loss in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. December the 23rd, right before Christmas, Cat is back. The Knicks are in town. We mentioned already the Wolves are going to play on Christmas Day for the second year in a row at Denver. That's the late game. So Christmas Day, folks, you've got Vikings football in the afternoon and the Wolves at night. Between that, if you have to talk to the family, you're all set. But after that, you can plan accordingly there. Then back-to-back games late January against Golden State. Be the first time that the Warriors are in town since the end of the playoff series. January 29th is when OKC makes its debut at Target Center. As we mentioned again, though, 28 games getting on national television. Now, there's a couple of caveats we got to throw at you here, and this is not great because I did a deep dive on this because schedule stuff I'm just a nerd for. As far as I can tell, the Wolves have 2 games starting at 10 o'clock or later next year. The old man in me is just grimacing on that. The first 2 are 9 o'clock starts, by the way, to start the season. Not great. Yeah, they have a 10 p.m. Central Time tip-off, February the 24th at Portland. That's an NBC game. Yeah, so that locally will be on NBC. That's going to be on KVOY. Will be at 10 o'clock at night. That's what we're talking about. That's a Tuesday night. That's part of the new deal that we were just explaining. And then 2 weeks later, March the 10th, at the Lakers, will be a 10 p.m. Central Time start. 10 o'clock. That is late, folks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like we were complaining, I think, didn't the Wild have a 10 o'clock start time, I think, during the playoffs this year when they played Vegas? Something outrageous like that because the game got done at 1 o'clock in the morning. They will have that. They have a couple of noon starts as well this year, dictated by television. They play at noon at Oklahoma City in March. They've got a noon tip at Cleveland in January. That's a Saturday game. That is an Amazon Prime tilt there. So this comes with being good, is the networks want you, which we're so not used to this as Timberwolves fans or observers or ones that cover the team, that we're not used to them being desired by networks. And now with, how many do we count? 5 separate networks that are going to have games on. They're going to be playing it all hours of the day. But that's some of the scheduled tidbits out of the Wolves for the upcoming basketball season, which will be here before we know it, which is crazy to say since we're already halfway through August, basically. But excited to see that. And it will give you, again, the full debrief on how to watch once we get closer to the start of the season. I would say, though, if you're already streaming for sporting events like for Prime and Peacock, you're all set. And if you haven't, then if you're a fan, you better start doing that. And that goes even more to what the NFL's trying to do as well, because they're even expanding with their streaming capabilities, which we'll get to once we get closer to the kickoff of the NFL season and how to find their games. But that's the deal for what the NBA is doing. In the in-season tournament, which I think this is the 3rd version they're doing of that, that's exclusively on Prime. So if you want to see the weird court designs, those are only on Amazon. Those games are exclusive to there. That was part of the new contract that was done here with the NBA and Amazon Prime. So that's the deal there. All right, we're due for a break. When we come back, Cory Provus will join us to update us on what's been a wild last few days of the Minnesota Twins, capped off by last night's game. Look ahead to Hall of Fame weekend. Bunch of other topics with Cory. That's coming up on the other side of the break. Hot Mic rolls on. We're back after this.
Deep to left center field. Back it goes and gone. The 0-2 pitch. He struck him out swinging at 101. Swinging a drive. Left field and deep. Back it goes and gone. And the Twins walk it off again.
All right, it's Friday at 9:35. Get a chance to visit with our guy, Cory Provus. His appearances are brought to us by Weldon's Tire Service on what's been a ho-hum week for the Minnesota Twins. Ho-hum last couple weeks. It seems like just the last 14 days, 15 days. Cory, this has been, well, you've been around the team for over a decade. Has this been as wild as you can imagine the last 2 weeks?
Oh, no question, Dom. Yeah, this has been the rockiest I can recall. A period of my time with the Twins, with what happened at the trade deadline, seeing 40% of the roster traded away, and then with the unknown about ownership, and then the Pohlad family releasing the statement the other day while the team was in New York. So, yeah, a lot's been going on. The play's been better. I mean, the play on the field has been better. It's still, not where anybody wanted to be, but still, yeah, it's been interesting to say the least.
Obviously the big news that happened earlier in the week, and you're in a really unique position on this. I'm curious just the timing of it and how you've interpreted the fans' reaction from it when you were doing the broadcast the other night.
When the trade deadline went down, and I thought that next game, because we were off that Thursday when we played Friday, and Derek Falvey joined us, I thought, for a really good inning of conversation to break. It was 7 batters, so we were limited with what we could get into. But I thought we addressed it, we hit it, and we talked about it, and we moved on. With this, there's not much more we can say. I mean, I don't know. We read the statement, and that's really all we can do. The game was good too. I mean, it was a 1-1 game at the time when we addressed it and moved on. I think we will. I hope to address it more on the air after everything is settled. That we learn the limited partners, who they are, what this means going forward. Because maybe at that point, it may not be until next season. I don't know what this looks like, and I think that may be our time to kind of get into it a bit more than just offering opinions. That's not what we can't do that during the game, but what we can do is ask questions. And I thought with the trade deadline, it was a great time, and Derek was fantastic. He was as transparent as he could be, when he joined us, and maybe we'll get that same opportunity with Joe Pohlad or somebody else, in the future. But until all this is announced publicly and resolved and we know what this means moving forward, I think it's hard to address it on the air more than what we did.
I was talking about this leading up to your appearance today about what the atmosphere was going to be like at the ballpark last night. We were just visiting briefly. Can you give us, was it angry, vitriol? Did you see it at all in the stands last night?
I didn't see it one bit. It felt like just a normal, Thursday night at the ballpark. I thought the crowd. I think it was with the way the Twins performed against Turk Skubal. I think they took momentum and they had the crowd going because it felt like Rocky IV, where they're facing Ivan Drago and he's not a machine, he's a man. When Rocky cut him that first time, it felt like, wait a minute. When Eddie Julian hit a home run off Turk Skubal, like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And we got a shot of Skubal throwing his glove in the dugout. Like, this is what you wanted to see. And so I think the play, dictated the temperament and the tone around the ballpark. So I didn't sense any of that. I didn't sense any of that throughout the game. And I was wondering the same thing, Dom. What would the reaction be like at the ballpark? But I thought the fans were great because they were into the game. When Rocco got ejected late, I thought that fired him up too. So yeah, I thought it was a typical night for me at the ballpark with the close game. Just sadly losing by one in extra innings.
It's such a emotional weekend too because it's Hall of Fame weekend. The 1965 AL champions are going to be honored. There's a lot of players that come back. There's a lot of high emotion with this now tied to some fans that frankly are really PO'd about what went down over the last couple days.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Twins Hall of Famers, especially that I think have more connections to the Pohlad family than others. The 65 players, they don't. But I'm curious because I'm sure they'll be giving interviews and get their take on what's going on. And I look, I'm not oblivious to the fact that what is the fan reaction right now. I see it, I hear it, I feel it. But what is my job? My job is to call the game, and that's what I can do. And I can't deal with the unknown. And I'm often asked about, coaching staffs, and I don't know. I think when teams win, managers get too much credit. When teams lose, managers get too much blame. That's kind of where I stand on that topic. But I'm not oblivious to it. I'm not, Dom. I'm well aware of kind of where fans are at right now. And all I can do is control what I can control. And that's, bring my energy, bring my enthusiasm, and my level of interest in this team succeeding. And that's kind of where I kind of put my emotional thought. And that's where I put my time on a daily basis is control what I can control.
Yeah.
I can control my attitude, my preparation, call the game, talk about the game, things that are happening in game. The outside noise, I see it, but what more can I do about that?
It's interesting as a broadcaster. How do you navigate that? You got to call the game, but also recognizing what the fans' emotions are, and how do you try and navigate that? I'm curious.
Well, again, I think with the trade deadline, it was easy.
Obvious
I think
there.
That was easier because it was factual that the Twins bullpen looked a lot different on August 2nd or August 1st than it did on July 30th, right? That's dealing in fact. And that's where I go. That in a game like last night and a game like we saw Monday in New York, if there's a tight game, where the Twins are going to go once those bullpen doors open up is unknown. They don't have Danny Coulomb. It's not going to be Louis Varland. It's not going to be Brock Stewart or Griffin Jacks or Joan Duran. Your top 5 bullpen guys are no longer here. That is where I can go. What are the Twins going to do? They don't have those same options. It's a bullpen game tonight. All those things come up, and I think that allows myself and last night Perk on the road trip, Justin Morneau, we address those topics. This is a new look bullpen. Where do the Twins go? That's what I deal with. That's where I go. If I start getting into being GM and being, partial owner, then I'm going to be in the hot seat from the people I work with. And also I'm going to get in the hot seat from the people that are watching because I'm just guessing. I'm just stoking the flames here of the unknown, of things that are not in my control. And John McDonough was a legendary, hockey executive before that with the Cubs, and he gave me a piece of advice in 2007, my first year with the Cubs. I never forgot, Dom, and that is stay in your lane. And I am a big proponent of staying in my lane. Now there are times when you can merge a little bit, sure, and I think we did that post trade deadline. I think we got into a few things that deal with the present but also the future, and I think that was fair, and I'm glad we did that. But the idea of my job is to stay in my lane. I'm a big believer in that.
I appreciate you answering that and give us some perspective behind the microphone. On the end of the game last night, obviously Rocco got tossed. We're going to show the end, the call on it, and I don't know if there was, from your vantage point in the replays, was there anything conclusive you saw that the ball hit the ground? Because that's what obviously he was furious about and ended up getting ejected because of it.
I thought watching it live it did, but after watching the replay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And Rocco, I was curious what his post game. When the game is over, I'll give you some what happens post game for me. When the game is over, I'm in my car. 99% of the time, I'm listening to Pearl Jam. It is rare that I listen to post game, and I'm at that time. My time at the ballpark is over. Last night was different. I was curious because he got thrown out. What he said, and I thought he was fair in that I can't tell you if it hit the ground or not. What I wanted them to do was check the ball.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's fair. And I think Perk said the same. Check the ball if there's a dirt mark on it, because they're swapping out balls all the time. It's not like, how do you know that mark wasn't there from 2 innings ago? Because watching a game, how often a baseball is thrown out? It's thrown out basically almost every other pitch. So I think you get a pretty good read on if it hit the ground. If there's a big dirt mark on there, it probably hit the ground.
Yeah.
So I think that is what Rocco was hoping for. If they checked the ball, there was no dirt mark, I'm going to go back to the dugout, that's fine. But I'll say this, I thought watching it live it did. Yeah. But then after that slow-mo, you can't convince me that Dingler did not cleanly catch that ball after it hit Jeffers' bat.
I think there's a mix of frustration of the last week or plus that was in that with Rocco. I'm just asking you to total speculation on that.
I don't think so. I think he was upset with the strike zone all night. I think there were some calls that Tarek Struble got, and also some missed calls. I don't think John Bacon had a great game, and I'm curious to see what his scorecard comes up today as. But there were certainly some pitches that and I think Bailey got a few that went his way. So was he consistent? Probably, but I think there were some calls throughout the night that irritated Rocco and Jace Tingler and the dugout. And the beautiful part about Target Field is, unlike other ballparks, umpires can hear everything those guys are saying in the dugout. It is very close. Yep. It is very close to home plate. So I think it was a culmination of that. I think there was frustration with the strike zone that the tipping point was that moment.
Also, your microphones hear everything as a broadcaster.
Yeah,
how do you pick up? How do you handle that?
So I'm in a tough spot there because I have to be sensitive to some fans, to younger fans, to even older fans that don't like hearing that. But at the same time, it's baseball. These are adults. It's passion. These are words that they're not unknown. They've been, and I just, if it starts to get so loud and so obvious, then I have to interject.
Yeah.
So I hear it. I'm sensitive to it, and I'm curious. And I was kind of wondering if I'd get an email this morning from either somebody I work with or somebody above about we need to do better with that. And I wonder if I'll stop by the production truck today and see if there's any fallout from that, because that came across. I don't know what more we can do once you hear it. We can bring everything down a little bit in the truck. But I also get emails from people that like hearing that. And so it's one of those where I'm a parent. I've got young kids. If those are my kids watching, do I want them to hear that? No.
Yep.
Have they heard those words before? Yeah. But I am sensitive to it, and I'm well aware that it came out in the way it did last night.
Yeah, and we work in live television all the time, and it happens. It's not great, but it happens, and it's just it just happens. There's no maybe a better way to describe it on that. Let's break. We come back much more with Cory, including some of the younger guys we're going to see playing, and apparently Luke Keeschall is the resurrection of Robert Redford in The Natural. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Final segment with Cory Provus. His appearance is brought to us by Welton's Tire Service. We got Game 2 of the Twins and Tigers coming up. It's Hall of Fame weekend. This is always I remember going down. Gosh, for when Yohan Santana got inducted in. This is a pretty big deal. The Twins do this right, and this will be fun over the next couple days.
It is, and we honor Corey Koski, and the weekend should be about him, and it will be. But as the years go by, and with the health scares that Tony Oliva and Ken Herbeck had earlier this year, and Rod Carew, much of my vision and much of my thought is just about hanging on to these legends here and just not dismissing and not ignoring, that who is here. And because, in the near future, that's not going to be the case. Yeah. And there's a whole section of the Twins Hall of Fame ceremony that we honor those that are no longer with us. And some of the all-time Twins greats are thankfully still here. So that's what I think about as well. So, and it's emotional for everybody. I get, teared up because I've gotten to know Tony Oliva. When I got the Twins TV job, and I saved this voicemail, I got the sweetest phone call from Tony Oliva.
That's awesome.
Tony Oliva left me a message on my voicemail just congratulating me on moving over to TV. I'll never delete that. And it's just the sweetest message in the world from a guy that I like talking Spanish with. He helps me practice my Spanish, but I just like seeing him. And because of, the stroke that he suffered this season, he hasn't been in the radio booth with Alfonso much this season. But I love seeing him and seeing Rod and seeing all these guys come back. But we honor Corey Koski. But at the same time, if you're watching, if you're there this weekend, don't just brush aside, the fact that we get a chance to still spend time and see the faces, the smiles, and hear their stories of some of the all-time greats, not just to play for the Twins, but some of the greatest baseball players to ever play the game.
That's well said. I'm interested how you evaluate for the last 6 weeks. You think are jobs on the line, or can guys earn jobs for how the last 6 weeks of this baseball season go?
It's a great question. I think Eddie Julian is the guy that comes to mind, and he had his best game last night, offensively and defensively, because first base, to me, is unknown. First base, how the future looks at first is I have no idea. And so if you're Cody Clemens, if you're Eddie Julian, especially Eddie Julian, that you have to look at this like this is a 6-week massive audition that I want to be a part of this team's plans moving forward, and I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to do my best. The bat's going to come back. I'm not going to be a liability at first base. So for him especially, I think this is a massive, massive opportunity, because what the future looks like is, to me, Royce Lewis III, Brooks Lee at short, Luke Keyshaw at second base. First base, who knows?
Yeah.
So that to me is a big question mark. So I think for a guy like Eddie Julian, Dom, it's absolutely a pivotal 6-week stretch here for him to show and say, I'm here. I want to be here. Give me a chance. And if he has more games like last night, he's not going anywhere.
Any other spots or players in your mind that are auditioning over the next 6 weeks?
I think Austin Martin defensively, and he had a good game in center last night. But I think for him, where he fits in defensively, it's more defense with a lot of these guys. And I just think, Austin Martin, he's not going to be a 15, 20 homer guy, but can you put him out in the outfield? Can you make some plays, show some athleticism? I think for him, it's important. I still think they're learning about Alan Roden.
That was my next guess I was going to ask.
Yeah, where he kind of fits in. He doesn't strike out too much. He swings early. But, where does he slot in? Is he going to be, a left-handed hitting outfielder playing all three spots? I mean, the roster has too many of those guys right now. And I think that's going to be cleaned up this winter. With Matt Wallner and Trevor Larnach and Alan Roden, James Outman is in AAA. Walker Jenkins is left-handed. Emmanuel Rodriguez is left-handed. They have so many left-handed hitting outfielders that at some point they're going to have to either try some of these guys at first base or make some trades, because I just can't see the same amount of left-handed hitting outfielders as we sit here and chat today, 6 months from now, 4 or 5 months from now, when we start spring training all over again. It doesn't work. Yeah. There's too many of the same guys on this team that I think the roster is going to need to be tweaked in that regard.
Luke Keeschall came in, I believe, Corey, you correct me if I'm wrong, he was the number 3 ranked prospect in the Twins system. So maybe this isn't like out of left field, but man, just him coming back. I know he was really good before he got hurt, and this is just like Robert Redford of the Nationals shows up and just hits the cover off the ball.
Yeah, he's going to be swinging the Bobby Savoy special here pretty soon, the next time he breaks the bat. He's something, and it's not just me, you saying that. You hear that from Morneau, from Plouffe, from Perkins, from the guys that played. When these guys played and put this kind of praise upon Keeschall's shoulders, that to me has a lot of merit.
Yeah.
It really does. And so good for him, American League Player of the Week, first Twins rookie to do that since Max Kepler in 2016. It's been fun to watch, and I like the energy he brings, the speed aspect. I'm very envious of the hair that he has, but he is a great guy. He was on MLB Network, the other day, and he didn't give too much. I mean, I think he's pretty quiet. I think he's pretty humble at this point. But he's a guy to root for, and I keep looking around the stands, and I'm waiting to see some Keeschall 15 jerseys. I still see Perkins 15s, which are fine, but at some point here, I think we're going to start seeing some Keeschall 15s pop up in the stands.
Emails come in here and ask Corey, is Walker Jenkins a possibility to be brought up in September for the Twins? Is that in your radar at all, or not? He's not ready yet.
No, I don't see it happening. I do see him going to St. Paul, though.
Okay.
I do see him because Wichita right now they're in a playoff push here, so I think he stays with Wichita. And if they don't make the playoffs, then because the AAA season goes longer than the AA season, that I think it wouldn't shock me if either he and Kalen Culpepper, who is probably the Twins minor league player of the year, although Kyler Fedko has had a great season with St. Paul as well. But I think Culpepper right now is the odds-on favorite to be the Twins minor league player of the year, and probably a top 50 prospect in the game. That's how well he has shot up the charts this year. So I don't see it. I don't see Jenkins or Culpepper with the Twins, but I think there's certainly a chance that they're both playing in St. Paul, though, by the end of the season.
Culpepper was the number 1 pick last year?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, out of Kansas State. Just a rocket of a rise. He's going to be in camp. Jenkins will be in camp. I asked, though, if Walker Jenkins was going to play in the Fall League because of all the time that he missed, and I was told no.
Okay.
That the Fall League is they've set their roster for the Fall League. That'll be announced here soon. But he's almost outperformed the talent that he's going to see in the Fall League anyway. The way that the Fall League has evolved over the years, it's probably now high A-ball level talent, and Jenkins is far and away blown by that talent. I think also with the injuries he's had, some fluke spring training injuries, they don't want him to have a fluke Fall League injury, have a good off season, ready to go, and then he's going to be in camp in spring training. That's a given. And I think Culpepper will be there as well.
Last thing before we let you go, some positive news on Pablo Lopez that we may see him sooner than later if everything goes well tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Ojuri had this great report yesterday during the game that he's going to face some hitters today, full uniform and all that. He's going to kind of have a simulated game, if you will, today. So then rehabs. Or they're not too far away, but he's going to go. It's going to be, he's going to have his pitchers get, I believe, 30 days, and position players get 20. So I think September is what we're looking at with Pablo Lopez, and he wants to come back no matter what the record is, where the Twins sit from a playoff standpoint or not. Right now, way on the outside looking in, but that has no bearing on Pablo. He wants to pitch for the Twins again this season, so he's still competing, still fighting. And he wants to be part of this team here when it's all said and done.
Always great stuff, bud. Thanks so much for the time. Have a great call tonight, and we'll talk again next week, okay?
All right, Tom. Thanks, buddy.
Good to see you. There he goes. Cory Provus from the Minnesota Twins. His appearance is brought to us each and every Friday by Welton's Tire Service. Twins and Tigers coming up 7 o'clock tonight, 6 o'clock tomorrow for the honoring of the 1965 team. That game is on Fox tomorrow as well. We'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. We'll check in Enderlin. It's been a wild couple months. The Eagles are back to play football. How that's going to go and how they're trying to rebuild that community after what happened in June. Kevin Murphy will join us when Hour 2 of Hot Mike begins after this.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Final hour of the week here on this Friday. We're going to spend it chatting some ball. Sam Ojuri, NDSU running backs coach, going to join us in about a half hour. My conversation with Sam from Bison Fall Camp with the ever-changing running back situation for the Bison in 2025. We'll do that in about a half hour's time. I mentioned off the top of the show, though, we are 1 week away from playing football games in the state of North Dakota. They've only been practicing for a week, but that's the rules that happen. And I wanted to feature our next team and guest because of obviously the last couple months has been wild in southeastern North Dakota after the deadly tornadoes that came through, specifically Enderlin, North Dakota. And the Eagles have had their own football team for the better part, I think, 4 or 5 years now. Kevin Murphy is the head coach in Enderlin as they're back practicing. Hendrickson Field ready to rock next Friday night when they have Wymer-Lidgerwood coming to town to give us the lowdown on what's been going on in Enderlin. He joins us this morning. I guess it's hard to encapsulate what the 2 months ago was like, but just experiencing that. Just can you describe what that night was like a couple months ago?
Yeah, all around the community, I think, the community, the area knew there was going to be a lot of storms rolling through. To that extent, I don't think really anybody knew until it was kind of on us, which was quite an experience. And it's one thing to kind of go through it, and then on the flip side of it, knowing that there's so many communities that are so many people in the community that were impacted. People they know, people who may have lost the ability to be in their homes. And then just see the community come together is such a special thing. The Enderlin community is a special one. And then shout outs from all the other areas around, people coming up from Lisbon, Sheldon, everywhere, and I can't thank the community. The community is so strong, and it's great to see, you hate to see things like that happen, but it's a special thing to see people come together and help one another out with all the cleanup, the banquets, helping people out. It's a special thing for sure.
The practical part of this, and maybe it's not nearly as important with the loss of human life, though. You wake up the next day or two and wonder, okay, what damage is there? I imagine how high up on the priority scale was that after making sure everybody's okay? Like, okay, what are we dealing with when a couple days afterwards?
Yeah, and you kind of nailed it. There was a lot of, when word kind of got out, I know me and my family, there's a lot of texts rolling in from, family members, people that I coached in the past, people in the community checking, hey, are you guys okay?
Yeah.
What went through there? And really right afterwards, just a great job by the first responders and everything getting out. And you're right. It's like almost where do you start? And they did an awesome job. I can't commend those guys and gals enough for getting out in the community. And it's really just doing triage on the fly. You see a house situation, people coming out and checking in. Hey, are you guys okay? Is everything good? And they did quite an amazing job getting out. And then once you kind of understand where people are, the human element, then it's just everyone kind of pulling together and communicating like neighbors. Hey, this is what happened. We have these tree downs. We have this in the field. We had a lot of different organizations and people come together to help clean up fields for the local farmers and obviously help those that lost homes.
Yeah.
So it was the human element, obviously, first and foremost, you're checking on the loved ones and the people you care about. And then it's just, let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. It's kind of the mentality.
So after that, and you can maybe explain, we were talking a little bit off air on this, of Hendrickson Field coming through, and how did everything turn out after when you look through it? I mean, initially you're probably fearing the worst, I imagine.
Oh, for sure. And from the playing facility standpoint, we have to get the lights kind of fixed up a little bit, but the lights, everything's up, the field's in good shape. And from that perspective, so we're able to bring the community together next Friday and just to get to enjoy the kids playing a game of football when Wymer comes up and Wymer-Lidgerwood. And we're excited about that. It'd be a good chance to kind of just come back together as a community and get some, whether you want to call it normalcy or pride or just a good celebration. And that's what we're excited about on Friday.
I was going to ask about that, Kevin. That's a good point. You've had Legion Ball, but this is different. That will be next Friday of maybe the first time that everybody can come together since this happened. I got to imagine there's going to be some emotion tied with that even before kickoff.
For sure. And the big message we're gonna have for the team is, it's a special moment. Enjoy the moment, but don't forget the task at hand. We're there, and obviously the families they're going to be coming together, and it's going to be a special thing. And obviously the players and us as coaches, we're going to have a job to do to kind of focus. But let's acknowledge it. Let's accept, kind of take that moment in, enjoy that feeling. Mm-hmm. But we can't also kind of lose focus on the task at hand. Wyndmere Lidgerwood, very solid team. They've been doing it well for a long time, so we can't. We have to keep a good focus on that as well. So it's special. Enjoy it, but let's focus on football too. So
to have that be back, I mean, knowing it's the opener, it's Wyndmere who's really good and a rival. Just there's gonna be a lot of things swirling around that game.
Yeah, for sure. And then like we kind of already said it there, it's going to be a physical game. These practices are great. There's only so much physical practice you can have before the pads start popping, and they're going to be ready to go. Well coached, very talented team there, and we like our squad too. So it'll be exciting to see.
To have football back, it's been a handful of years now that you guys have had your own team. Describe the pride of, okay, we're back, we have our own squad again, and the numbers hopefully that have come out with that.
Yeah, the fun part about that is a chance to kind of build the culture up. And the big thing we kind of pride ourselves on is that the first thing is we're going to be great teammates, and then that means just that togetherness. And that doesn't just mean as on the field you're a great teammate. Of course there's an element of doing your job, but what do you do when your buddy's down? You had a drop. Are you going to help build them back up again? In the halls, there's just excitement about having that. And co-ops are good and great. I'm not saying there's any issue with doing those, but when you can have your own community, your own place, it's a special feeling, and there's a lot of excitement around the team, and it's the culture that we've been building over the years between the administration, the coaching staff, the teachers, the community. It's something that I think a lot of the people in the community can be proud of, because it's one of we're going to work, we're going to do it together, and that's what it's about. It's about us, not I. It's about the team, and that's a special thing when you can get that.
Knowing full well when you got the job of what the region was like, of what you're facing on a week-to-week basis, what kind of challenge is that, knowing full well who you mentioned Wyndmere, Hankinson's always good, Lemore's there, I'm going to slight somebody, but those teams on a week-to-week basis, that's a big challenge.
Yeah, no, it's exciting though. Having that competition week in and week out, and you said it with Wyndmere, they have a handful of really, really good players. And I can name players for days. You mentioned Hankinson, Rashawn Earl, very talented football player down there in Hankinson. Gunnar Thiel just over at Lemoore, and then Wyndmere Lidgerwood, Derek, 84, big guy, really good lineman, a lot of TFLs. You have Dexter and a few others there at Wyndmere. I mean, that's exciting to see. And the thing is, obviously, as coaches, you play to compete. It's about winning. But seeing how much talented football there is in all these areas is exciting, because there's, of course, a pride about your town. But the region, you love to see the region do well and see these talented football players coming out of a lot of these schools. And it's exciting because every week you got to be on. You got to be on every week.
When you took the job, is it what you thought it would be so far, now that you're third year as head coach?
Yeah, and obviously there's things that I've improved and gotten better at as you kind of learn the process going here. But the biggest thing that we've taken pride in, and this isn't just like a me, it's a us thing. Our whole coaching staff, our administration, is we want to build a culture that trains these young players to be great students and people. And that's the exciting part, is when you see these, maybe you have a young freshman or sophomore who is kind of figuring it out, and you see them grow as a person, where they're doing these things. And that's the exciting things. And a lot of credit goes to the team, where they're buying into the vision. And I'm kind of excited about that, just being able to see that kind of take off year by year by year. And it's been great.
You are a Valley City State alum, so I'm required to ask now that the paint bucket game is not going to happen. Thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm bummed. As a Valley City guy, that paint bucket game that's a fun collegiate local rivalry that I adore. That rivalry. It's awesome, and all the Valley guys listen to me know what that's about, and the Jamestown guys. But hopefully somewhere down the line that can get figured out, because the paint bucket game, that's a fun one. We got to get that back. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon now with what's going on. And it's too bad for the region, because I will tell you, I've covered plenty of them. It's fantastic. There's few that have the kind of energy. You played in it. I mean, you can describe it way better than I can. What is it about that makes it different to the area?
Yeah, well, that paint bucket game, if you look at it, obviously the proximity. You have Valley, Jamestown, and it's a very passionate fan base on both sides. And with rivalries like that, it's fun because there's just that extra edge, and you always want to have an edge as a player. I was a former offensive lineman, and you always have that fight in the trenches. But that fight on those rivalry games, center versus nose. It's wide receiver, corner, quarterback, this and that, coaches. And it was always an extra physical game that you love, and just that buzz around the field. I remember, my senior year, just looking around the stadium, and it is packed. And it's so fun to see not just the student section, but the alumni, the people that have played in it or cheered in it, the businesses from both communities. Anytime you can have a rivalry, it's a special thing, and especially a healthy rivalry where there's mutual respect, of course, but one that you just have a little axe to grind a little bit. So.
That's a good way to put it. In your previous life, you were assistant coach with Steve Lockway. I'm not going to hold that against you. Lockway is obviously a weekly guest on our show. Describe that of working with Steve and what you wanted to take from that to your current job now at Enderlin.
Sure. The number one thing that I appreciate Coach Lockway, big mentor in my life when it comes to a lot of different elements, not just football, but life, is just how do you want to be remembered and what do you want to do as a coach? And I think the big thing that opened my eyes early in my coaching career is it's all about why you're doing it. And for us, it was that feeling of you want to build young men for the game of life. And as a teacher and coaching that young people for the game of life, because the game is special, but you only have so long to play it. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciated with him being able to find ways to connect with people, figure out what is their why? Do they know their why? And then helping them kind of grow. Yes, as a football player, but how can you use football to make them the better, the best son they can be, the best future husband or community member or worker, and just the lives that I've seen transformed where some people, people make mistakes, and it's about not just piling on. How can you help get them out of those dark places? And, it's kind of funny where it's not always football or X's and O's, because yes, there's the game. It is a game. Life is real, and preparing these young men. And it's kind of fun to see, weddings, when you go back to weddings. We had a wedding this last summer, we went to of a former player, and you sit down and you look at it's like, well, that's a guy from Athens, Wisconsin, and then right next to him is a guy from Beulah, North Dakota. Mm. And so it's like you see these people come together. That's the special stuff. And I appreciate Coach Lockway for helping me kind of understand that side of it.
Did you ever give him a hard time? Like, hey, can we run it maybe a few more times instead of pass it 70 times a game as an offensive line guy?
It may or may not have come up a few times, but we did have a few good games. I remember we had a bunch of good rushing games against a handful, but it was all about balance. But the RPO spread offense, and it's evolved obviously as we've gone. Learn to respect it. So.
When you saw Damon Gibson arrive on campus, give me your recollections of that guy, of what he turned into during your time there.
Yeah, well, first of all, he seems tall, so there's that. But he was he was a competitor in the truest sense, where he had some savvy and this or that, but it was really interesting to see him learn the game of football. And he kind of always had that attitude of like, just throw me the ball. Just throw me the ball. Sometimes you get competitors like that. Grady Bresnahan's another good example. And there's a bunch of guys where it's like there's the football side, but those guys just wanted to compete. And watching them grow and develop in the weight room and all that kind of stuff, it's that hard work, bring the lunch pail mentality that those guys have. And I really relate to guys that like that. So, but yeah, those are some good recollections. They were competitors,
The college game of what you've experienced there, how much can that help translate for what you're doing now during the week and on Friday nights? Is there anything that's relatable that you can bring from your past job to your current one?
Yeah, and obviously I've hammered the culture part of it. That's the big thing, and it's something we pride ourselves on. But outside of that, it's an ability to coach people to understand the game a little bit better. First of all, before you can coach them how to run a route or make a tackle, you have to make sure that they know you care. Being able to connect, because you can be the smartest person in the room. If people don't think you care, it's hard for them to actually learn from you. And that's one thing that we try to do is kind of understand, okay, you've never played football. This is your first year out. Why do you want to play? And once you can kind of understand where they're coming from, you can help relate the game to them. And there's some concepts that, we were able to take from MSUM that we were doing there, and we can use it a little bit here, but I think the biggest thing is just making sure people understand, why am I coaching? Why do they want to play? And then you can kind of marry some of those things together to help them maximize themselves on the field and off. So
expectation-wise, I know it always depends on numbers. How are your numbers, and what are you hoping to get out of 2025 for Enderlin?
Yeah, solid. We have 18 out, 3 that the exciting part is 3 brand new to football.
There you
3
go.
that haven't played football before.
Wow.
They wanted to come out, they wanted to learn, and they've gotten so much better in a short amount of time, and that's exciting. So expectation wise, the biggest thing that I look for is just I want to see continual growth, and growth for everyone's a little bit different. Some people, it might be one thing, some people might be another, but can we keep getting better? Is our football IQ growing? And the number one thing I want to see is just those 9 out there coming together and having fun. Like, that's what gives me goosebumps. Don't get me wrong, you like scoring touchdowns and stopping them, but when there's a big play, what gives me goosebumps and it gets me excited is when there's a big play and you see all 9 come together and just have fun. Like, that's the fun part. There's a lot of work that goes into it in the off season with weight room and running, and it's not always fun. Like yesterday, we had a hot practice. Those are the grind moments. So when they can just get out there, families around, come together and celebrate, that's fun. That's fun football.
This was great, bud. I really appreciate the time. Good luck this year. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll talk down the road, okay?
Thanks. Appreciate you.
Kevin Murphy joining us, Enderlin head football coach. The Eagles open up the new season out at Hendrickson Field, one of my favorite stops, next Friday night against Wyoming Lidgerwood. A week from today, the season gets going for North Dakota high school football, both for 9-man, Class A. There might be a handful of AA teams getting going next week. We're over for a break. We get caught up. We got a few emails to get to. Reminder, Sam Ojuri going to join us here in about 15 minutes time as well. Back on a Friday morning edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com after this. Welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Kevin Murphy for giving us a few minutes here. So we teased this on the show on Tuesday when Mike McFeely was in on a project he's been working on for, I would say, the better part of a couple of months. And it is fresh to Inforum.com this morning. And this is a perfect way, I think, to maybe get the last non-football weekend out of the way. Because obviously we got college games a week from tomorrow. And Mike went down the rabbit hole of trying to decipher and find the top Bison football games in the Division I era. This is on Inforum.com now, the top 75 Bison football games. And it's an entire series you can click on, and literally they have every game that Mike is ranked here throughout it. If you click on it, there's a whole section here, the top 75 games. His number 1 game, which I'm going to give away, was the Bison victory over Minnesota in 2007. There's a podcast that I'm included in with Big E and Jeff Kolpak that we discussed the 75 countdown. If you go into the top 75, this is the really cool part about it. Shout out to Rob Beer for doing this. You can scroll down this, everybody, and then you can literally click on the particular game, and you can see like the headline from the paper that day. That is really cool. I'm going to spend more time on that this weekend of going through these, but this is dynamite. And you can look through it, and there are going to be some on here that I'm sure people will be like, oh, I can't believe that one's on there. Where the heck is blah, blah, blah? And that's the whole point of it. And to spur conversation, to get people riled up about it. Frankly, as I looked and I was part of the selection process, so to speak, of narrowing it down. And this is just the games in Division I. I mean, you can scroll for a while here. There are going to be some doozies you're going to see. And they're not all Bison wins. You can see with the streak buster, number 56, when they ended their 39-game win streak in the spring of 2021. The loss to Minnesota in 2006. The Colorado game from last year is on here. South Dakota State beating the Bison in 2007 to end the perfect season is listed there. It's really fun to go back and look. And, if you get to the top 10 of these, and they are, again, you look at it, the Gopher game in 2011, the Marcus Williams 2-return game. The Butler game, no one's going to remember that game at all. I remember it for two things. We were at Target Field, and there were 35,000 Bison fans there, and it was Trey Lance's debut, and he scored 6 touchdowns in that game. Number 6 is a boat race. You see that? Delaware State. No, I remember nothing about that. There was one thing I remember about that game. I believe that was when Taylor Swift came to town the night before, and Brock Jensen's jersey was gone. That was the only thing the thing that's their college game day was here that day. And then the rest, the top 5, I mean, they go without saying. You can put them in any order. I had Kansas State ranked number 1. I'll tell you that right now. I had the K-State game in 2013 as my number 1 game. I had the Iowa game number 2. And I had the first national championship number 3. That were my top 3 games. The Gopher game is hugely important. And Mike talked to Craig Bowl, talked to Gene Taylor. Those are the 2 architects of it. If they say it's number 1, then it's going to be hard to dispute that. I had Georgia Southern game in 2012. That's the Georgia Southern Loud game. Everyone's going to point to that one as a huge one. There's just so many indelible memories on it, and I'm really intrigued to see what people will take away from this, but it's a great way to dive into the weekend and really get you ready for the upcoming Bison football season with some dynamite memories to look back on there. So that's available Inforum.com under the Bison Media Zone. It's also under I believe they have a special section labeled the Bison Top 75 Games in FCS. That feature is really neat. It's a little drop down, and you can see what the Forum headline was that day. Personally, I'd like to include the WDAY video in that, but that's just me. Because I could tell you, of these 100 games, I think I was personally at 91 of them. I think there's a couple that predated me because I got here in September of 2006. I've had a front row seat to all of these. There's only a couple I didn't go to. I didn't go to the first Gopher game. I was anchoring that night. The game at Georgia Southern, which is also on here in 2006. I was at a wedding that weekend back in New York, which caused havoc because I just got here, and then like a month later I was going back to New York. Cal Poly I wasn't at. I was anchoring that night, so that's probably the handful of the ones that I wasn't at because I was still anchoring the sports that particular night. But it's a fun list to go back and look at and stir up some memories because it's good stuff there. And shout out to Mike; he did all the heavy lifting on this to make it happen. Please go and check it out because it's well worth. If you're a Bison football fan, even if you're just a college football fan, this is an unbelievable way to go down memory lane and look back at some fun games to get you ready for the upcoming season. So good stuff there. We'll break. We come back. Speaking of Bison football, we'll meet Sam Ojuri, NDSU running backs coach. He was part of so many of these games. We'll chat with him about coming back to NDSU and what he sees out of the running back room for the Bison in 2025. Beautiful day outside. Back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Final half hour of our show on this Friday. Looking forward to the weekend. We got Vikes football tomorrow. Plenty of good stuff. We'll get you ready for what to watch for both today and the upcoming sports weekend. Good sports weekend on tap. We'll do that coming up here in about 20 minutes. I just went down the rabbit hole of that last segment of looking at the top games that Mike picked here, and there are some dynamite ones. The Central Michigan game in 2007, I was anchoring that night as well. I think we led our newscast with that. The Bison won by 30 over a team that won the MAC. 44-14. They won. As I look on this list for our next guest, he's been involved in countless ones. I look at number 69 on the list is NDSU's win over Towson. That was Sam Ojuri's last game as a Bison. Scored a couple touchdowns as NDSU won a third straight national championship. He's involved in one of the very best games ever played in the history of the Fargo Dome. The Bison win over Georgia Southern in 2012. He scored a long touchdown run, I think 53 yards in that game, in the Bison 23-20 win over Georgia Southern. We found out the news in February that when Randy Hedberg announced that he was retiring And there was some restructuring of the Bison offensive staff. Joe Bishoner then became the QB coach. Dan Larson was moving from the offensive line room that he was going to coach he was going to be the offensive coordinator. And the previous job, Jake Landry was the offensive coordinator, was the running backs coach. So that job was open. And Tim Polisic didn't hesitate in hiring a guy he used to coach in Sam Ojuri, who had spent the last handful of years with Brock Spack at Illinois State. He comes back to his alma mater at a really interesting time. He got to coach Marty Brown for about a month as Marty decided to enter the transfer portal and leave after his Jerry Rice award-winning season a year ago to go to the University of Miami. They were active in the portal after spring ball wrapped up. They added DJ Scott, a transfer out of Kennesaw State. They added Cortez LeGrant, a transfer out of the University of Minnesota. Barry Pennu they added as a transfer out of Rochester Community Technical College. It's Barika Pennu's younger brother. Barika's back. They added Miles Mitchell, a true freshman. Owen Johnson's back after missing the last 18 months. So it's a really different looking running back room as opposed to this time last year. I had a chance to visit with Sam about taking over this job, what it means to be back in Fargo, and what can we expect out of the running backs the Bison have in 2025.
Let me start first with just seeing you two converse. It seems surreal. You guys were teammates not that long ago. Now you're coaches here.
It is kind of surreal. Actually, we were working out earlier. It was me, LJ, and Marcus Williams, and we were doing an old workout, one of Coach Kramer's old workouts, and it was just kind of reminiscing those times. But it's really cool to be around former players, and we've obviously had a lot of special moments together. It's cool that we're all here and we're bringing it back.
I know it was one thing during spring ball, but now it's fall camp. Is it now clicked like I'm back? It's here. It's happening.
Yeah, at times every day when I'm sitting with the staff, which is an unbelievable staff every day, and it's the same offense I played in, so much comfortability, and to be a running back in this offense, it's just so much gratitude to be here.
Feel like full circle? I know we talked when you got the job about trying to get your way back here. You just have to maybe pinch yourself a little bit that this is actually, you manifested it. It happened.
Yeah, no doubt. This was a goal of mine to be back, to be a Bison. It's always in my DNA. But yeah, it is a little bit of full circle. Came here as a young man, kind of grew. Now, I'm a father with 3 kids. I'm married with a wife now, and everything's good. We're really enjoying Fargo.
Just second time around, what do you appreciate more being back now that maybe you didn't when you were a player?
Well, no doubt. I definitely appreciate Fargo. Yeah, we love it here. It's been awesome. There's so many nice people. So kind of just really taking advantage of the people in Fargo, and then obviously the facilities and how much this place has grown since I've been here. Just taking advantage of that, and just establishing a really good relationship with these players, man. Because once a Bison, always a Bison.
I was talking with Coach Spack in Sioux Falls at Media Day, and he was still kind of gritting his teeth like, I didn't really want to let him go. Yeah. Describe that time and how much that helped you grow as a coach to be ready to take this job.
Oh, absolutely. I always appreciate Coach Spack at Illinois State. I had a really good time there. I learned a lot. And most importantly, I felt like I had a really good group there. I kind of cultivated it, and, I left them in good hands. So best of luck to them, but can't wait to see them.
Describe, it's one day. I know you brought in a bunch of transfers that you didn't have during spring ball, but is there a way yet to describe what this running back room is?
Yeah. No, these guys, they're gritty, they're explosive, and they're smart. And the effort's always going to be there, man. I'm so proud of the way they come out every day. As far as DJ, he's one of the transfers. He's came in and he's learned the offense. Day one, he was a plug and play guy, so I think he'll be able to help us. And also Cortez is a very smart, respectful kid, and he's probably one of the faster guys in the group, so we'll have to find ways to get him the ball as well. But both those guys are progressing, and we're glad that they're here.
Describe your backstory with DJ. I talked with his coach, his high school coach, about your recruitment of him out of high school. Just that connection when he was available in the portal, was that a no-brainer to call him?
Yeah, in the second round, maybe wasn't as good of players I would think in my experience. And when his name popped up, there was a connection there, and we kind of went from there. But yeah, that was kind of part of it. I knew of him, and Coach Larson saw some of his tape, and he was kind of impressed in the things that he did, and we kind of clicked there. And from there, it was kind of just rolled downhill.
You've had a chance to see Barika Pennu from afar. Now you get a chance to work with him for his last year. What can we expect? What do you want to see out of Barika?
Yeah, I think Barika's primed to have a huge year. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He comes out every day ready to work. Every day we're meeting extra. about the X's and O's, and just little things that he can get better at. But I think BK is going to have a great year. Fire it up for him.
Is there similarities at all with his running style and yours? He's very upright.
Yeah.
That's how you ran too.
Yeah, no, I think he's a little bit more, I would say he's a little bit more flexible as far as position flexibility. He's got really good ball skills. He's really smart. I might be a little bit taller, but he runs extremely hard. There's some similarities there, man, and I really like the kid.
Is there anybody you look at, like, boy, he looks a little like me, like from their running style, anybody like that on the current?
Not currently. Not currently. Everyone's got their own style.
Tell me about Miles, of being here, of what advantage that is that he was here all throughout spring ball. How much of an advantage that get him now?
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of take that by base by base case. I think Miles was one of those guys who was mature enough to do it, and he was able to come in and kind of go through those lumps early in spring ball, and now he'll be able to help us this fall. So I think that was huge for him, and he handled it really well. Excited about Miles.
You went through it playing as a true freshman as well. Is there anything you can give him advice about what to – it's a whole different ball game in college football?
Yeah, no doubt. Really just play fast. Just play fast, play confident, and we'll fix everything else. But he's doing that.
So running back, is that one of the few positions you can come in, not necessarily plug and play, but you can, as a true freshman, come in and help?
I would say so. If you keep things simple, it all depends on what they can handle, right? You won't want to put, a third down situation on a freshman, but base downs, and as long as you're getting, your tracks and your reads all right and you're playing fast, just go out there and just react. I feel like it's a reactionary position, and you go out there and play fast and do what we brought you here to do.
Working with Coach Polisek again, what is that like? Obviously, him coaching you, and now you're working for him on staff. To describe that.
Yeah, no, it's been a blessing. Coach Polisek, man, he's always seen the best of me, and I've always appreciated the connection and the relationship that we've had. Just the time that we've been back together has been really awesome, and I'm glad to be back here with him.
Is there any chance you could evade LJ or Marcus right now if you still had to?
If I might be able to if I had to. You got to show up on game day, I guess. Got to make a play.
Great stuff there with Sam, a guy I've known for the better part of 15 years. He got here on campus as a wide-eyed freshman and he played as a true freshman in 2009. So I thought he would give some great perspective, and did, on a guy like Miles Mitchell, who I think were beyond the scope that he's going to play as a true freshman. Something I'm working on for next week, or maybe the week of the opening game, of the amount of impact true freshmen that have played at North Dakota State that are come right to mind. R.J. Urzendowski is one. Billy Turner is another. Nick DeLuca played a bit as a true freshman. Chase Morlock did. Those are the guys that stand out to me. And NDSU is going to have a couple this year. We were talking about it yesterday. Sam Getzinger and I were on the true freshmen that are going to get out there and play this year for the 25 team. But the running back room in itself, when Barika's poised to have a monster year. Really interested to see what the West Fargo Cheyenne product has. I think DJ Scott, who you're going to hear from next week on our newscast, transfer from Kennesaw State. You saw a little bit of his highlights during the interview with Sam. Bigger guy, can move though. That it seemed like he's picked things up right away and took off with it. He's really stood out to me during fall camp practices that we've been able to go to. That's the guy to keep an eye on. Mitchell's in the mix. Owen Johnson is there. I think those are the top four. I'm intrigued to see where Cortez LeGrant works his way in. Charles Ross is another true freshman that they like. That seems to be the running backs right now. I know Brady Wodrick's there. Barry Pennu's there. That's the list of backs that are on the Bison football roster. But that's a solid top four. I mean, and what Tim Polisek said, we played that last week, thinks this running back room will be better and deeper than what they had a year ago. And now they had the freshman of the year last year. They had Barika. They had TK Marshall, who was really good in his role, and TK did a bunch of everything, including special teams in 2024. That's eye-opening. When you say that, like, okay, then that much talent is, and Scott's got it. I think Owen Johnson is underrated, and I might be the one doing the underrating on that. Just we haven't seen Owen play in 18 months, but that early part of the first half of the 2023 season, he was just starting to blossom there. He had played a bit in Eastern Washington game at U.S. Bank Stadium. I think he got his first touchdown against Maine the following week. Central Arkansas, he got out there. I think the week prior to him getting hurt, when we were in Missouri, we were at Mo State, he had a big run there. That was the kind of run that he was hoping to have, and then obviously he had the devastating injury that took him out not only for the rest of 23, all of 2024. But Mankato kid's got some high hopes for 2025 to be out there and be an impact guy for the Bison at the running back spot. Just something to keep our eyes on as we are now officially 15 days out from the kickoff at the Citadel. We'll take our final break. We come back. We'll get you ready. We got a great sports weekend on tap. We'll do that and say goodbye on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra right after this. All right, wrapping things up. Don't forget, Sunday night, we have our first of 2 Bison football preview shows. Comes up right after the news on WDAY, 10:35 this coming Sunday. And next Sunday, we'll be with you to get you ready for the 2025 season. Bunch of fun stories, in-depth stuff there. Starts this Sunday night, and then we're back with you a week from Sunday. And then after that, it's the football coaches show with Tim Polasek takes over that Sunday night time slot on August the 31. So that comes up this Sunday. Looking forward to that getting going, and that means we're here with a football season ready to rock and roll. Whether we're ready or not, it's here. So that's coming up. We'll have a bunch of stuff there featuring a look at Cole Payton now taking over as the head coach. You'll meet or the quarterback. You'll also meet the new members of the staff, Ojuri being one of them. Sam Getzinger is a really cool in-depth look at the running back position as well. We're going to feature offensive line, the defense that's now changed over with guys that have played but haven't had a ton of reps that are going to get a chance to do that in 2025. And a look at the full schedule, which is different this year because the Bison will play 3 non-conference games, take a bye, then hop into conference play, and then the final game of the season is a non-conference game with the University of St. Thomas. It's a really unique part of the 2025 schedule. So that's all coming up Sunday night. We hope you join us 10:35 right after the sports wraps up on the news that night on WDAY. All right, a lot to unpack here before we wrap up, and we've got a couple minutes left. Our guy Tom Hoagie is back on the golf course this morning. Had a great round going yesterday, and then it went sideways, kind of like what the second half of his season has gone sideways. Playing at the BMW Championship. He just made a bogey now, so he's 3 over par for his round. He has to win this week or finish in the top 4 to get to the Tour Championship. And right now he's standing 13 shots off the leader, so that doesn't look promising. It's only the top 50 guys that are at the BMW, but the top 30 make the Tour Championship, and he'd have to have something crazy happen over the next 2 rounds plus. There's no cut for him to make it there, which will not qualify him automatically then for the Masters. He'd have to win an event to get into Augusta National for next April. He was this close. I think he was a bogey putt away from being in the top 15 in ties, which would have got him to Augusta automatically for 2026, but unfortunately he made a bogey late in that round that cost him that. So I would tell you he's probably not going to be thrilled with his year. Excited that he had top 50 on the FedEx Cup points that's really good. But the last 2-3 months has not been good playing for him. I think he'd admit that. So we'll keep you posted on that throughout the weekend as well and how he fares. Again, remember the Vikes play tomorrow with a noon kickoff at US Bank Stadium. We're anticipating none of the starters going for the Vikes tomorrow. That's why the joint practices were held over the last couple of days. Be intrigued to see, though, what stands out there. Sam Howell's going to start. Max Brosmer has made a heck of a run, the former Gopher quarterback, to maybe make this team. He'll get some play tomorrow. That will feature on Monday's show on how the game went. All right, we got to do some what to watch before we get out of here. All right, what to watch is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Okay, tonight, Tigers Twins, 7 o'clock on Twins TV. Titans and the Falcons opens up the preseason. That's at 6 o'clock on the NFL Network. And, of course, the Little League World Series. Shout out to the team from Sioux Falls. They won their opener yesterday in Williamsport. That's tonight. Now, over the weekend, this is also what you got coming at. We got Pats and Vikes tomorrow. The Lynx with a big one on CBS against the Liberty. And from Williamsport, the Mets and the Mariners Sunday night on ESPN. All right, thanks to Kevin Murphy, to Sam Ojuri, and to Cory Provus. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks so much for spending part of your week with us. And we'll see you back here on Monday on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBM, and Inforum.com.